Hi, good morning everyone. Thanks for waiting, thanks for your patience. So I'll just introduce myself. My name is Jacob, and I welcome you guys to Kickstart Forum. So if you guys are not aware, there are two concurrent tracks going on. One is World Domination, and then this right here is Kickstart Forum. All right, so without further ado, I just want to quickly introduce you to the first speaker. So we have a lineup of exciting speakers coming up today. So the first speaker, he's Wempy Koto. So he's named as one of Indonesia's 40 under 40 by Fortune. And he's the CEO of venture capital firm, Systec Group. So Wempy has worked for prominent global advertising and digital agencies, including Wonderland. So today, he serves as a vice head of entrepreneurship at the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, and he's directly responsible for enhancing the national startup ecosystem. So without further ado, I just want you guys to put your hands together and welcome Wempy.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be here today, and welcome to the Kickstart Room. This is where world domination actually begins, so you're actually in the right room. So what I'll do is that because I've only been, all the speakers have only been designated 30 minutes to speak, I will launch straight into the presentation. And so, let's get into there. Right, let's see if this clicker works. Nope. That's a great start. There we go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. Right. Great. So you've all just started a startup, and the most important way that you can actually view your startup is not as a product. It's also not a service, because a service is just something that is bought and sold in the consumer marketplace. Also, it's better not to view it just simply as a business. Or, okay, I'm gonna have to need somebody to. Actually, can somebody just help me run? Okay. Right. Okay. Also, do not view it as a social entrepreneurial pursuit per se. And also not as a .com website that you're creating to build and creating to sell. Also, it's too small if you view the world as just simply a startup, because you'd be a David trying to fight a Goliath. If you think small, that's all you'll ever become. And so, it's important that when you decide to create a startup, that you decide to start a movement. And this is what I'm going to be speaking to you specifically about today. And what I'm going to do is, because we've only got a short amount of time, I'm going to launch into about 25 different points on how to help you build a movement rather than a startup or a product or a business or a service or a social entrepreneurial pursuit. So, what is a movement? A movement is something that gains traction, that gains hearts, shifts minds, and shifts legs to move. And as we can see, the Arab Spring was one of the most greatest movements of our most recent modern history times. Also, ALS Ice Bucket Challenge recently with Mark Zuckerberg was a very, Bill Gates, Ronaldo, that was a very powerful movement that happened recently just to gain awareness of ALS, as well as to raise funds, as well as to, and so you had a lot of celebrities, entrepreneurs, etc., really pushing that movement there. Also, Movember is a movement too. And Movember is there to raise awareness about men's prostate cancer. And so that started off as an offline movement many years ago, but has now gained a lot of impetus and a lot of traction simply because it's moved towards a digital forum. And we are very much still in Movember right now. And also when it comes to crowdfunding and the act of gotong royong and supporting entrepreneurs and people with visionary ideas, that in itself is a movement with Indiegogo, which started off with Indiegogo as well as Kickstarter. Indonesia has a culture of gotong royong, but it became online with the start of with the start of Indiegogo as well as Kickstarter, and now it's launched into Indonesia with Kitabisa, Wujudkan, and a range of other crowdfunding platforms. Also, when it comes to the digital ecosystem, such as Startup Asia and Startup Local and Business Local and all these great sort of ecosystems that are promoting the digital environment in Indonesia all around the world, that in itself is a particular movement. That's why we are all here today. So let me take you to an example of a movement that happened recently. Now, I'm going to go back. Can we play this video, please? I'm sorry, I'm just having some problems with the clicker. Can we play this video? Get it full screen. Right, this is a movement called Dumb Ways to Die, which was there to educate the public about the dangers of not being aware at train stations. That was launched in Australia. You have vocals? You have voice? Right. Do you have voice? Apologize. This is the Kickstart room. So, okay. All right. What I will do is that before we, as we go back to that video later, which I'll show you, I can go on to the next slide, which I can't right now. All right. Okay. Can we get some audio going? Is there any audio that we can get there? There's no audio. Okay. Right. Okay. That's fine. Can you help me get to the next slide, please? All right. So I will launch just straight into the points now about how to launch a digital movement. Right. The first point is to storytell, and storytell is one of the most important crafts that an entrepreneur can ever have, and one of the most important skills. And storytelling involves shifting the hearts rather than the minds, and engaging people in your mission, in your vision, in your in your grand vision of the future. Right. Sorry, this is very distracting. Can we do it? We're going next slide. Right, so the first part of that is storytelling and emotionally engaging people within what your vision is. And then the second part is building a mission that defines what winning looks like. And when people are engaged in what that trophy, what that medal at the end of the road is, then they will come and join and be a part of your vision. And guys, I think you need to switch it around here. Push it my way. Right, okay. I'll just say next and you control the slides, okay? All right. So then thereafter, you need to show what is the ugly reality of right now versus what is going to be the beautiful future once your invention or innovation pulls through. And these are two differences that need to be tangible. They need to be real in the eyes and the minds of your of the people that you're trying to engage. Then the next part of that is to commit to a single purpose. And nobody wants multiple visions. Nobody wants a lot of You know, nobody wants the middle ground. Nobody wants to know what half success looks like. Nobody wants to know what almost made it, almost famous looks like. But everybody wants to commit to one single purpose, one single vision, and one single vision of what the future is going to look like. So once you commit to that with no options, then you're on to, you're on to what would be a good story to tell. Then the next part of that is, go on, yep. The next part is what is your command and versus what is your incentive. So you need to command people. You need to be able to really direct people and tell them what you want them to do as part of, for example, the ALS challenge or the Arab Spring. So you build that commandment, and then people will, and then after that you tell them what is their incentive. Is that incentive a social change? Is that incentive a financial incentive? Is that incentive an emotional incentive? Is there a moral incentive? So you build that incentive for that. You create and so they can visualize what that incentive is. Yep. And then you create shared context and shared values of what that change would mean. And when I talk about create shared context and create shared values, for example, today, if I was the president of Indonesia, then I would be addressing an Indonesian crowd, and I would show them what the current ugly reality is right now. And our shared context is that we are Indonesian, and our shared values is that we love this country and we want to change the country. And so you need to be able to share that with whoever your audience is. And I'll give you some examples right now. Yep. Okay. So one of the examples is that if one of our shared contexts could be that we are Indonesians. And our shared value is that we love Indonesian films. So we would build a movement that preserves Indonesian films. One other shared context could be that we are all One Direction fans. And then after that, our shared values is that we hate Justin Bieber. So when a context and a value needs to be very, very definitive to make sure that the global movement happens. And then our shared context, on the other hand, could be that we are all One Direction fans. But our shared value could be that we only love Harry from One Direction, right? And another shared context could be we are all geeks that love Android only. Or another shared context could be that we are cancer patients who, and our values that we cannot afford to pay for medical bills, etc. Also, another shared context could be that we are all mothers who are against McDonald's. So there's a particular context and there's a particular value, and both of them are very, very firm, and there is no middle ground between, well, I kind of like McDonald's, or I kind of like Justin Bieber, or I kind of like. There is something very definite about the context and the values. Yep. Okay. And the next thing also is that irrational passion drives movements. Although we'd like to believe that we are very German in the way we think, we're very methodical and mathematical and Protestant, etc. But humans themselves are very emotional beings, and so when it comes to trying to trigger any movements, we've got to shift the hearts, and then the minds and the legs will follow. And that's what you really need to, that's what your movements really need to, that's where the foundations of your movements are. Yep. And also, to change the world, you need to start with a passionate tribe. You cannot have people simply who are paid by you to create your movement, because they become paid influencers rather than people who really actually believe in your particular product. So do not pay people, but start with a passionate tribe. People who actually believe in your mission more than you do. People who believe in your words more than you do. People who believe in that future more than you do. And that's how you start. That's the stem of the movement. Yep. And then the best movements also are very informal in that they do not have a particular hierarchical system. Those movements happen at, you have a definite command, you have a definite want, you have a definite end goal, but those movements actually start to become less formal. There's no sort of organizational chart that happens within particular companies where you have a CEO there, then senior vice presidents follow, and then VPs and directors and managers, and all those sorts of people follow. It doesn't work like that. Actually, people at the grassroots and the executive or the management level or the sort of administration level, they are powerful enough to actually really push those particular movements. So the directives, after that movement has started, become a lot less formal. And just as I was saying also, is that there are no definitive hierarchies, but there is structure. There is some sort of structure, there is method to this madness that is happening within your particular movement. But you have to start to let go and allow that structure to evolve on its own. And also, when it comes to passion above influences, so what normal people will tell you to do is to urgently and immediately, like once you set up your particular product, engage with key opinion leaders and influencers that you can pay particular amounts of money or give equity to your company. Well, actually, that's the wrong way to go about it, because they become another celebrity that endorses your particular product, but really doesn't allow, it doesn't germinate from a point of passion or a point of wanting to support. It comes from a financial incentive rather than a moral incentive. And the greatest movements have always come from moral incentives, that they believe in that vision of your future. So passion above influences, and above influences, and then there is no need also to engage the entire population. The entire population, where if you have limited or no budget, you don't need everybody in this whole world. You don't need 8 billion people or 250 million people in Indonesia to know what your product is. You just need the magic few. You need the magic few, that tribe who are passionate about your particular product, and the influencers also, if you can actually engage them after that, to know what your product and spread the word. And then thereafter, there are geographically close networks. Those geographically close networks bring a lot of progress. So you cannot be an Austin Powers sort of figure, or somebody that sits at the ivory tower and tells people and directs people from a distance and say, well, hey, you got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because that's not going to work. You actually have to be at grassroots, and you have to be on the ground to drive and build those directives there. And so there is a close leader and there is a distant leader. When you first start, you must be a very close and very grassroots leader to get any. So movements don't happen completely online. You have to have some sort of geographic start, and on the ground, there must be on the ground foundational movement sort of impetus that happens to start off with. The next part also is that apart from having on-the-ground network, you need to have a distant network, a very distant, far network. And this would include your contacts at Silicon Valley, or your contacts at Chile, or Singapore, or London, or Paris, or Prague, or wherever you feel that the next market of yours should be. And that's specifically because these faraway networks, they bring new territory, but also bring a lot of new insight that these people that are so close to you would not be able to provide you. And they provide you with a lot of objective feedback also that the people close to you are too scared to tell you too. Yep. And also, what happens is that when movements take place, it's always, as I keep on saying, it's always driven by passion and actions of small groups. So what happens is that these big groups start to form small particular clusters, and those movements don't happen all on a sort of rank and file sort of like a global army that sort of runs like that. It actually works in very small clusters, because small clusters have good ideas and better ideas and great ideas and all these different ideas on how to push that movement forward. So it's not something that is uniform. It is not something that happens at, like methodical, hourly or daily sort of rates. You're going to have peaks and troughs of everything, but those movements are going to be driven by those small groups and not global directives. And those as I was saying, those large groups become small ecosystems. And the people that are going to drive these ecosystems could be clustered in terms of like teenagers. So they could be teenagers that drive your movements, or they could be celebrities within the celebrity circle, or they could be schools. So if kids at school love your particular products, they're going to drive that particular movement. Also, it could happen in places of faith, such as mosques and churches, or workplaces, football clubs, organizations, cities. So these big movements become very, very small clusters, and those clusters are actually what becomes more powerful than what you would call the global headquarters, or where that global directive started. Yep. Right. And also, another very key point is that hierarchies are very slow, but the world is moving fast. So what you now need to do is is visualize and start to solidify who are your local leaders there. For example, in Indonesia, who are your leaders? Who do you see is really pushing this momentum? In Surabaya, in Jakarta, in Padang, in Medan? Who are they that are really pushing and driving the vision? Who are they in Singapore? Who are they in New York or San Francisco, etc., that's driving this movement? Because if you stand there and just allow this whole sort of thing to happen without some sort of eye or some sort of want to be involved in this, the world will move fast, competitors will come, and new products will start to overtake you, because hierarchies are very slow. As we can see with the elephant theory of companies, is that companies move very, very slow. Goliath always moves very, very slow, whereas David is very agile, moves very fast, and that's how you've always got to be thinking like David. Okay. And the next one also is that you need to start with the passionate, then the adopters. So the passionate people will always come on board first, and then they will very much lead the adopters in thereafter, and then the mass adopters. There'll be a huge segment of your population that will absolutely reject your vision of the future. Because with any vision of the future, one party stands to gain and one party stands to lose. And so you will certainly have people who reject your vision of the future because they stand to lose, or it doesn't affect them morally, socially, financially, or anything like that. So they have no incentive to be a part of your movement. But what you've got to do is start with the passionate, and then they will start to drive the adopters in, and then the mass adopters will come in thereafter to be a part of your movement. And they are the laggards, but they are what's going to bring your critical mass within your startup. And also, you need to choose your platform. Just to give you an example, in the Soviet Union, what brought down the Soviet bloc, was not the fax machine, but the fax machine was actually used as the technology that helped bring down the Soviet bloc. Now, that very much differs to today, where the Arab Spring and the Occupy Hong Kong, and Occupy New York, and Occupy movements, and all these different movements are happening digitally via Twitter and Facebook and social media. But the technology or the platform is not the is not the main driver. It's the people that are connected to that. So, and it's also the network, not the nodes, that drive these particular global movements. So what you now need to do also is figure out what is that right platform for you? What is that right technology that will drive your startup forward and allow that global digital movement to happen? Yep. And also, proximity trumps technology. And just as I was saying before also, is that you really do need to generate and create these grassroots movements, have meetings, have physical gatherings, have where you can actually see the passion in people's eyes for your educational startup, for your social entrepreneurial pursuit, for your for your business pursuit, for your .com, etc. So you really do need to have these meetings with these leaders, to generate a faster and a stronger sense of cause. Yep. And also, the concept of power when it comes to movements is an illusion. Do we ever really know, or is it commonly known, who started the Arab Spring? You know, there may be a couple of different names that come up on Wikipedia or come up on other sort of informational sites, but do we actually really know? Do we actually really know who started up the Occupy movements? Do we actually really know, just by, watching the ALS Bucket Challenge, do we actually really know who that leader is? Whereas we all know that, who the leaders of, who various entrepreneurial leaders are, such as Bill Gates and Zuckerberg, etc. So the most powerful movements actually stem when we don't actually really know, when that concept of power actually becomes an illusion, and it actually shifts from CEO to those the power, and what's driving this particular movement shifts from the CEO over to these passionate tribes. And also, just as one of the final reminders here is that social, economic, political, and digital revolutions happen when people act as one. And although when I talk about clusters and all these different groups working independently of each other or somewhat interdependently of each other, no revolutions, nothing big happens unless people act as one. And you have to define what that one stands for to start off with. As I was saying, there is no middle ground. There is no almost famous. There is no almost had a trophy on the mantelpiece. There is no, 30, 40% of, what it takes to get there. But there is only that 100% vision. And so when you know and when you have communicated what that one is, those revolutions can take place, whether it is digitally or politically, economically, etc. And that I just wanted to end this by saying that ideas do not change the world, but people do. And no matter how great your idea is, it always starts from the talent that you have in your particular startup and the people that you engage to start off with. They are the most important people, because the people that you actually engage in your startup, they're paid by you. Whether you like it or not, they're influenced by that pay, because there is a financial incentive for them. People that you bring on board as advisors or chairman or the board of directors, etc. They also have an agenda. They also have an objective, right? So you have to look beyond those people who have some sort of financial stake or incentive to support you, to people who have no incentive to support you, people who have no financial stake, people who are not paid. Right? And these people, as I was saying, are not those influencers that everybody tells you all about, but they are people who are passionate about what you're doing. And they are people who, they say that in history, a lot of the great inventions happens in twos. Well, those people are the ones that are outside of those twos, because they're those people who said, well, I thought about that idea years ago, or I thought about doing something like that. And they're the ones that are going to take your idea, and they're going to love it, and they're going to want to create it as their own. And if you're good enough, they won't turn into your competitors, but they will turn into your believers. They will turn into your collaborators. And that is what's going to drive any sort of global movement. So I'm just going to recap, just because we had some technology problems to start off with, I'm just going to recap that I really want yourselves to see what you're executing today is not just a startup. That's just way too small. It's not just a business or a company with people shaking hands and those profit signs that go up and down. It's not about that. It's not just about a social entrepreneurial pursuit where you sort of say, okay, well, hey, this is the impact of what I'm doing versus before and after, with some sort of social mission wrapped in some sort of profitable entrepreneurial pursuit. And it's not really just a .com or a website that you're building, because those things will collapse very, very rapidly. When you create something for the sake of creating a website or for the sake of creating some sort of startup because it's a pursuit that you're doing, simply to occupy your own time rather than something that you truly, truly believe in, you will not stick around once that bottom curve hits. It's something that you will abort. So I urge you, I really, really urge you to really think about your startup carefully. Is this startup something that you really believe in? Is it something that when the going gets tough, that you will stick around? You will be there, right? That you have invested your heart and soul into this particular pursuit, because they are the only startups that will ever be able to globally scale. And so I will harp on that final point, is that ideas do not change the world, but people do. And not only when one person does, but when people do, and when they collaborate together, when they form their clusters, when they feel that they own your mission more than you own your mission. Kids at school, and even many of us here right now, we feel that we own the mission to Mars more than, Elon Musk or Richard Branson does. Many of us, we feel that we own the problem of poverty. Many of us feel that we own the problem of trying to fix up Jakarta's pollution problems. Many of us feel that we have to be the ones to solve particular problems. So those are the problems that you do want to be solving. You do want to be solving those aspirin problems rather than those vitamin problems, because they are the ones that are really going to trigger people's hearts. Because, and I will repeat this point also, is that you will not move wallets until you move hearts. You will not move minds till you move hearts. You will not move anything till you move hearts. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Wempy. Is there any questions for Wempy? Anyone? I know it usually takes one to get the crowd going. Any questions in regards to Wempy's presentation and keynote? So sorry for the technical errors just now. We are fixing it. Right. Questions? Okay.
0.5 or 6. Yeah, we can go back if you like. Shall we go back? 0.5 he was asking, I think.
I'll just pass the mic over.
Yep.
Yeah, who's done with your question? We'll just pass you the mic. Yeah, maybe you can repeat the question for the rest of the audience.
What I've done is I've shortened the points for the sake of trying to fit a 30-minute format. But there's a lot of things that I would have loved to have elaborated on. Your question was, what was 0.5?
Yeah, 5 and 6, because I kind of missed it. Went from 4 and then the next one was 7.
Oh,
I'm not sure
I
whether
apologize. Probably there was numbering errors. Can we go back? Okay. Sorry. Right. Okay. Right, sorry, numbering error. But yeah, so just, did you get the part about committing to a single purpose? So there are no options and middle grounds. So I may have missed out on one point, just for time's sake. And the next one was, and really just leapt over to 6, which was just, sorry, was there another one? Yep, okay. So yeah, what I actually did was that I fitted everything onto the one slide, sorry. And I just put no options and middle grounds as within 4 also. Yep, cool. Yeah, all right. Any next question? Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Wempy.
Hey, how you doing?
My name is Rama from Sporteca. I actually have a movement for my startup. It's called #KeepOnMoving. So basically, we try to campaign people to stay active, because my startup is e-commerce for sport. But as we go along, it's not easy to create a movement, right? And we have to draw people attention, get people to participate. We try our best from internal staff to join this. But then, as entrepreneur myself, like I got a lot of other things to deal with, especially when we're just starting up. Do you have any best advice for me personally, or for people in the audience? How do you the most efficient way to build a movement, as well as doing your other things as well, so that's my question.
So your movement is called Keep On Moving.
Keep on moving.
And it's about trying to get people to really start exercising. And
basically, we ask people, why do you exercise or why do you stay active? Because people have different reasons to stay active. People want to feel good. People want to have fun. People want to have a good, better body, so things like that. So we want to keep those. We want to know those reasons why, and then that's our movement. Basically, it's everywhere on our business cards, on our website, and social media. Thanks.
Yep. There's many ways to actually do that, and there are many. You have various different sectors that would be very concerned about their health right now, right? So you have kids. You would need to understand the psychology of what triggers different people to want to start exercising. For example, kids, vanity. When it comes to teenagers, it's going to be vanity. It's going to be for the sake of looking slim and young, etc. So you would want to trigger a movement that germinates from vanity, right? When it comes to people who are 40 or 50 years old, that would be about health and heart disease. So you'd want to trigger that particular psychology about, well, how do I now connect with that particular audience, which is very worried about cholesterol levels, which is really worried about obesity and heart disease, right? And that could be one particular segment. Now let's get into a smaller segment of people that may smoke, right? So you may want to trigger some sort of movement about them that talks about, the obvious stuff such as lung cancer or the benefits of quitting, etc., and starting to live a more active lifestyle. So what you would want to understand is the different types of triggers. What is triggering different people to want to start moving? it's going to be different. And then for a group such as women who just gave birth, right, who put on a lot of weight, what is their trigger? So you'd want to understand what is their psychological trigger and tap into that. And many times you would realize that there's going to be one thing, such as vanity, and the next thing is salvation, right? These are two things that is going to, on many times, start that movement. That vanity part could be about, uploading our pictures, our doctored and photoshopped pictures and our beautifully filtered pictures. That's vanity. When it comes to salvation, that could be the fact that I'm going to die if I don't start exercising. But you really need, and every particular sector needs to really understand what is the psychology of what is going to really push that movement. Yep. But that was a great question. Thank you. Because as I was saying, you have micro movements, yeah?
We probably have time for one last question, if there's any. All right.
One last question about movements.
All right. If not, we thank Wempy for his keynote speech. Thank you very much. A round of applause. Yep.